Hey, Andrew.
Yes, Stephen?
You know how we romanticize the days of going out to our local video store and sifting through endless amounts of movies, searching for our favorite films, and maybe even finding some hidden gems?
Oh yes, I know it all too well. That used to be my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, everything is online now.
Well, what if I told you that there was a place online where you could get some of them same thrills as going to the video store?
Are you talking about Orbit DVD?
I knew you knew what I was talking about. Orbit DVD is located in Asheville, North Carolina, and online with OrbitDVD.com, they bring you everything your physical media heart desires.
Yeah, they have an awesome website that stays up to date with the latest releases from all of your favorite boutique labels as well as studio releases. Not only do they carry American labels such as Criterion Collection, Severin Films, Vinegar Syndrome, and Warner Archive, but they get routine shipments on imports from companies such as 88 Films, Arrow Video, Imprint, and so much more.
And with the option to sell or trade your used copies for cash or store credit, they really bring that video store vibe to you. So go to OrbitDVD.com and stock up on your Blu-rays.
And tell them Chasing Labels sent you.
Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I am your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Stephen. Doing good. We are back here once again, as I say, nearly every single week, because I just improv all of these intros.
You come in with like intentions to say something clever, and then it's just the same thing every week. It's
cool. You
know
what it is? I also do so much like preparation, and then when it comes time for showtime, it just leaves you. Slate.
It's that stage fright. It's that stage fright. It happens, man.
Oh yeah.
You think after almost 200 episodes of us doing podcasts, you would eventually have gained some courage, but it's okay. It's all right. You know.
Never. It's like a rinse and repeat, as they say on your shampoo bottles or whatever you use. But today we have a very special episode. This is spine number 70 for those of you keeping track at home of Chasing Labels. And we once again have another great and momentous guest for this week, Stephen. Who do we have on?
I don't know. I didn't do too much research on this guy. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
But I'll just say a couple footnotes. He's not really that big of a deal, but he's done a lot of big movies. You've probably seen, things like Florida Project, and he did a movie that just recently came out on Blu-ray for the first time from Criterion called Takeout that he co-directed with, what's her name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name.
It's pronounced different way. I think we should go with Zoe, though.
Okay.
Just to make it clear. So it's Shi-Ching Zoe.
Okay.
Shi-Ching, but with an S in the beginning.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, Sean Baker, he is...
But Sean Baker is our guest this week.
Yeah.
Filmmaker, writer, producer... many things. If you go through his filmography, you will see that he is a jack of all trades, as the saying goes.
He edits things. He edits all his films.
I almost forgot.
He takes on the whole project, so that he can be super stressed out by the time it's out in the world.
That is true.
Yeah. But Sean, how you doing, man?
Great, and it's great to be on. I'm a big fan of your show. I'm a subscriber.
Great, thank you.
To everyone.
Awesome.
So it's cool to be on.
Great. So as usual, we love to start with our guests to really get into like the beginnings. So we like to hear where that love of movies began, and we want to. So was it something that you stumbled upon, your love for movies, or did your parents kind of introduce you, or where did that all begin for you?
Yeah, it goes way back. I think I was 6. I think I was 6 years old. My mother brought me, and it's my mother's fault. She brought me to the local library in Milburn, New Jersey, where little suburban town in central Jersey, and they were showing super. From what I'm guessing, because obviously I was 6, so I just have images as my memories, but I think they were showing Super 8 or perhaps 16 millimeter loops of clips from the Universal monster films. So they showed like basically all the climaxes. They were or like they were showing like the the moment in Dracula when he gets staked. They were showing the mummy getting killed, and then of course, Frankenstein,
Mm.
James Will Frankenstein. They showed the windmill sequence, and that just made such an incredible impact on me. Like that morning, I wanted to be, like every 5 or 6 year old boy, I wanted to be a construction worker. And then that afternoon, I wanted to be a filmmaker after seeing that clip from James Whale's Frankenstein. So that changed everything. And then I was lucky enough to have like a Super 8 camera. I had the total cliche, indie filmmaker route thing that you heard from Rodriguez and a lot of other American filmmakers, Linklater. We started with our Super 8 camera, graduated to VHS, graduated to something higher, then went to film school and did that whole route.
And then you went back to like a telephone in like Tangerine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which the telephones are great these days, but the phones are great these days, but it's like that's one of the interesting things about your career is you're never trying to like get settled. You're always like trying to challenge yourself, and I think that's amazing. I think that's great.
Well, that's nice to hear. I embrace all mediums. Of course, right now I am doing my best to stick with film because I need to. I feel the need for filmmakers in my position to support Kodak and keep film alive. But as long as the content is there, any medium will work. And earlier you mentioned, Takeout that I co-directed with Chi-Ching Zhou. Well, 17 years after Takeout, finally, she has her, we're in post-production on her solo directorial debut. She directed a film called Left-Handed Girl, which we co-wrote way back, and it's finally been produced. And guess what? We shot it on the newest iPhone.
Fantastic.
So, we embrace all mediums.
Yeah, I saw the Instagram post of you in the editing room, and I was like, I really want to make sure that that's brought up because, yeah, I mean, it's a great full circle moment where she's now finally getting to her first solo venture, and that's great. And I know she produces with you on all your films too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
And wears many hats, and you've seen her actually acting in both Red Rocket and Tangerine.
Yeah.
She played the donut shop owners in both.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. It's great seeing her. I've watched some features on all the films that I have. She does everything, and you say that in a lot of the features is that just having that ability to wear all the different hats is very important for you guys to make sure you can keep being productive and keep moving forward and getting better and yeah, it's especially in the indie world, being able to do as much as possible can cut costs, can be very helpful.
Exactly. I think it's actually important, no matter what size film you're on, to at least understand the mechanics of all aspects of filmmaking, because you have to be able to communicate with the different departments, and you don't want to just be general. You want to be specific and detailed to, for things to run smoother. So it's good to understand all aspects of filmmaking.
Yeah, and just kind of going back, I guess, to what you were talking about, your whole origin of love of movies and stuff like that. Where did the origin of love of physical media kind of play in? Because I've seen you mention Laserdiscs, so obviously that goes well back into the archive of home media.
Oh yeah, I mean, it goes way back to when they had like literally you could take out the little short Super 8 reels from the local library. So it goes way back to there. But then, the video store years, collecting some of my favorites on VHS, then the laser discs in college, that really kicked in my days at NYU. And I was living with fellow film students, and they were fellow film geeks, and they had the laser disc set up. So I remember our room was like, and we had the big sound, set up as well. So our dorm room became like the movie watching place for the dorm.
It's kind of like the movie watching hub.
Yes.
I mean, what's interesting is, home media in general, their setups have changed massively over the years, even going back 20, 30 years or so, to the point now where Once you've indulged yourself with good audio quality in a small setting, you almost can't go
Yes.
back to the way it used to be. You're just so
Oh,
spoiled by it. Um, and even
I can't even go back on resolutions. I
oh
feel
yeah,
like sometimes I'm I'm okay with anything HD up, quite honestly. But it's dipping below HD where I'm just like, well, why can't this company re-release this title on Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Like
hmm.
there's some late, there's some great titles out there that only exist on DVD, and I can't take
Yeah.
it.
Oh, so everybody listening, Sean Baker is one of us.
Yeah.
As they say in Todd Browning's Freaks, where one of us, where like once you've seen the capabilities of modern movie watching, the high definition and like higher than high definition, going backwards is like it's almost like a shock now. And it also makes you reminisce about your younger days where you're like, remember watching this on VHS way back when, and now I'm watching it. It's like you're watching it
Oh,
differently
and then
for a
just
whole new
and then
experience.
just widescreen, like not having
Yeah, even something
widescreen
as
for the
basic as
longest
that.
time, you know?
Yeah,
Yes.
something as basic as widescreen. It was like revolutionary for home entertainment.
Yep.
Just absurdly revolutionary for home entertainment. And what we've noticed, I guess, doing this show, Steven, is that a lot of like what Sean was saying, a lot of the movies that have been only available on DVD or sometimes never even got a DVD release are seeing the light of day now through boutique labels, through these smaller companies that are putting in
I
tons of
mean,
work to bring them
one
to
one one
screen.
of the ones you've actually visited, the cellar, Severin, is one of the great
Mm,
ones that does that. Vinegar Syndrome really does a good job of just taking very obscure titles and just throwing them on 4K. And then,
Yes. It's amazing.
yeah,
They're doing amazing work because it's not just, making them available at the moment for us. They're actually preserving these films. They're
exactly.
doing the rescans and they're doing the restorations. And, that's so incredibly important for, just keeping cinema alive and keeping and preserving the history of cinema. And so a lot of these new releases, yeah, I'm getting these releases and watching them, films that I've watched in the past, but it's honestly sometimes it's really like watching it for the first time, because of the new quality, revisiting old films. It's almost like it's not just a rediscovery. It's almost like a new experience.
Yeah.
yeah, and staying kind of on that track with Takeout, where
Mm.
going back to have to revisit that film for a Blu-ray release for Criterion. Did you notice, like, wow, I can't believe this film looks like the way it looks after having all such restoration work done on it and stuff.
Yeah, well, that was actually we did the restoration. Criterion paid for it essentially, but I oversaw the restoration frame by freaking frame. I mean, like we put a lot of time and a lot of heart and a lot of money into this restoration because and one of my current producers, Alex Coco, who produced Red Rocket, and he's going to be producing my new one. He was in charge of all of these restorations, and so he really took it seriously. We went back to the original elements and when I say my films, my first three films have been restored. Takeout is the first of the three to get a re-release. So with Takeout, it was shot on mini DV, that standard definition mini DV tape, and it was
Early.
29. What was that?
I was gonna say early digital video cameras for anyone interested in listening at home. It's like digital video cameras really only became a thing like in the early 2000s, as
Yeah.
went right around the time when you were doing it. I remember 28 Days Later being notorious for being shot on DV camera.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to cut you off. But please go on.
No, it's true. And then the Dogma 95 films. It was at that time that it was becoming acceptable, by both audiences and critics to see that type of quality on the big screen. Now, what they were doing though is that they had the money. They had the money to do a film out. And at the time, this was before theaters moved to digital projection. So you were seeing these mini DV films, but transferred to 35 millimeter and projected on 35 millimeter. So it elevated the look. It gave it like a complete I would say a presentation, a style that was like more presentable. And that's what Chi Ching and I always wanted from Takeout, but we didn't have the money because, when we went to Slam Dance back in 04, it was literally just pressing export on my Final Cut Pro project and then just projecting the file. So we didn't even have proper color correction. So, this time now we were able to go back to the original tapes. We conformed the entire film shot by shot because we had to up-res every shot from standard definition to 4K. Okay. So it's like 10 times the up-res, and we worked with Photochem very closely to make sure that this wasn't just like a basic up-res. We were taking our time to make sure that each shot looked correct when we blew it up. Then we did a recoloring, a color grading, and then we went out to film and back. Okay, so we actually did the process. We went out to a negative, scanned the negative back in, and trust me, it changes everything.
Yeah,
because we shot on 2997, a frame rate of 2997, it has that video look, and it's something we always wanted it to look like a film. So we always, even though it was, it has this lo-fi digital aesthetic, we still wanted it to be 24 frames a second and have that final polish that film would bring to it. So bringing it back into, scanning it back from the negative, you're at 24 frames a second now. And then we remix the film sound, remix the sound. And so it's finally in a place where we feel it's what we wanted as filmmakers. So we're so happy that Criterion allowed us to do this huge restoration and put it out there this way.
Yeah, and it looks great. I got a chance to. I got my copy last week, and Andrew had his for a little bit.
I got my copy as well,
and it looks fantastic. It was my first time watching it too.
Awesome.
So some of your early work I hadn't gotten a chance to watch. I still haven't gotten a chance to watch the film previous to this, Four Letter Words.
Okay,
which there's a couple of your films early on that you don't really have good releases yet to. Are them some things that maybe you're in? I know you might not be able to say.
Yes. And I'm so happy you haven't seen it yet,
okay,
because the restoration is like night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, so anybody who has not seen Four Letter Words or Prince of Broadway, please wait. There are proper releases coming out within this year, and I can't tell you with who, but some good prestigious labels. I'm chasing labels.
Nice. Something to look forward to.
Definitely.
Because I'm losing my voice already, but I'm notorious for completing a collection. So if I have a Sean Baker section in my collection, I need it all. So it's good that that's coming, and I won't have any gaps.
He won't feel the need to go buy that DVD, the only DVD out there or something.
Well, even if it does exist, but I went out and got all the Sean Baker stuff in the last week. And it's just I had realized I had Red Rocket, and then I was like, but I had seen your other films, but I just didn't have them, and I was like, you know what? Since he's coming on, I'll get all this stuff.
You know what? I'm just going to make sure I could show him that I have his stuff.
Yeah, just to impress him just a little bit. For no other reason whatsoever.
But I did get a chance to finally, I found a way to watch Prince of Broadway. And God, I love I feel like that's not one I hear anybody talk about, and it's such a great film. And it's one I can't wait to get the physical media copy, because it's, starting with, I haven't seen Four Letter Words, but I feel like that movie's a little bit of a different vibe compared to what the rest of your career has gone on to be, like thematically, where you seem to hit on a lot of marginalized people in communities and like social class, and just talk about that. What kicked you into like this drive of wanting to like focus on these like sectors of society where there's certain people that, whether it be takeout, whether it be like, immigrants and, or Red Rocket, you've had 3 different films with sex workers of different levels, whether you be Red Rocket or Starlet with, the porn industry or
the adult industry.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating, the thematic through line. I've been working this, trying to figure out the wording for this throughout the whole week. And it's just like, it's fascinating to me how there's each of your films are different, yet there's a thematic through line throughout of humanity on a very basic level, but also humanity on a macro level as well. It's just, I don't know if that was intentional the whole time, where you're touching on people who just living every day-to-day lives, and then but also their lives are also connected with bigger, more expounding things. It's a fascinating kind of through line throughout it all. Was that ever intentional, or that was just
Well,
the way it
that's very
goes?
nice. Thanks for all those kind words. I just I try not to overanalyze my own work because then it leads
True.
to contrivance. But I do. It is. I think it was around Prince of Broadway where I decided to tell stories that perhaps are a little more universal in theme, even if we're focusing on a microcosm, even if we're focusing on a very unique community. We're still applying universal themes and stories to those characters, and so into those worlds. So, and I think I did that intentionally because I want these films to travel, and I want these films to connect with people, no matter where you might be in the world. Because what I feel is so important about art is to find our what we have in common with one another, and how we are all connected, and having empathy with somebody, somebody you may not ever think that you'll cross paths with, or perhaps even have any sort of parallel life experience. But deep down, we all do. We all have our hopes and dreams, and our hardships, and etc. So I think that's what I'm trying to tackle with these movies. Yeah, and then getting back to what you were talking about earlier, my first film, Four Letter Words, is definitely my most autobiographical, meaning that it was really me observing my friends. And they say your first feature is your most autobiographical, and that's very true in this case. And I sort of got that out of my system. And then after that, it was a while before I shot Takeout with Shi Chang, and I had gone through a lot. I partied too hard in my late 20s, and
Right.
just crazy lifestyle. But I realized in hindsight that those years between Four Letter Words and Takeout, I was living in New York City, which changes your life, and I had relationships. So there was life experience between Four Letter Words and Takeout, where I started exploring the world more, and wanting, and having more of an interest in exploring other communities and ways of life. So I think that's why I started going in a different direction with Takeout, and finding my way on that route.
Yeah, and I think that not only your attitude about how people, because I've looking at other interviews you've done and things like that, I remember seeing one where you talked about like people need to make sure that they're checking out all types of cinema, not just what people consider to be good stuff, but people what people consider to be the B stuff, and cinema from all around the world. And I think that you've taken that into your own filmmaking, where you not only are you just trying to do things, you're not making films just on a standard level. You're getting actors and non-actors, and you're finding ways to like broaden the cinematic scope, not just on a basic level. There's like the way you present your films are not always just like what you expect. Sometimes you're going to have some really raw people that you, like you've said, just getting people off the street for the day. And some of them are people that are really, senior actors, like Florida Project, you have Willem Dafoe, but then you also have him playing off of, somebody that just came off the street, and it's like, I think all that mixed in makes for a really sweet, finished product. And I think,
Right. And there's a, and you wouldn't notice that if you didn't do, the background research. Like, obviously if you know who Willem Dafoe is, but all of it kind of meshes well together in terms of giving us the authentic presentation that I think you're probably striving for.
Yeah, I would say that's the word, authenticity. Yeah,
Yeah, extremely
your films
authentic.
are about being authentic, and that's
and raw and real. Specifically in just there's a lot of contemporary staying power, I would say, with your films. Like, even watching Takeout, a film that came out 18 years ago now, there still is an immigration issue when it comes to the way we accept immigrants in our society, how they get here, how they sustain their living, how they sustain their lives, and all those things. And even in something like Florida Project, just your social commentary on the impoverished, and there's the ability and necessity that they need to get by, but also expounding out of that, like the fact that the systems that we have put in place for people in that situations don't seem to be working. They don't. They don't work the way they're supposed to, and then these people are just stuck in a place like in the Florida Project. This magic castle, which is almost like an oxymoron because it's not magical. It's just existence is what it is. Yeah, just truly profound stuff that's been ruminating in my head this whole week.
Burying you in praise. No.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, all I can say is, that's something I with the restoration of Takeout, I am also revisiting, the subject matter, and Shi-Ching and I had to revisit it, and it was, yes, we did find it interesting, but also very sad that, things haven't changed. I mean, this world is always, unless we fix things, we're always going to be dealing with our class divide, our immigration, our border issues, the stigma that we attach to different professions and to different lifestyles. This is stuff that has not changed that much since I was starting filmmaking. So unfortunately, these films stay relevant.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a way.
Right. I mean, it's both, I would say, a double-edged sword in the sense, like, they're still relevant, but their relevance is predicated upon a lot of negative things in our culture and our society, like the stigmas with the adult entertainment industry and the stigmas with sex workers, whether it be in Tangerine, or even in a little bit in Florida Project, where, you see how sex work can be different depending on your station in life and depending on your circumstance. And also, it also depends on where you are, and it will dictate how it's perceived by people.
Yes,
someone working like they do in Tangerine and someone working as a struggling mother does in Florida Project, completely different situations, viewed completely differently in both of your films. One is, this is a part of life and part of what's going on. The other one is, people want to kick her out. It's just, it's fascinating how there's so many levels to the same subject matter and how one can approach it.
Yeah. And in regards to sex work, my personal politics on it is that, I feel that sex work should be decriminalized. But I'm not going to preach about it. I don't want to preach about it. I want to present different situations in the most objective way possible so that, I'm not just preaching to the choir. It can be a discussion from both sides. It can be a discussion from just people with different thoughts on the matter. And so that it does open up discussion and debate. So at least we're thinking about it and we're moving towards progress in there. You mentioned that I realized that I actually have focused now. I'm going on to my 5th film that is actually focused on some sort of sex work. That's the one I'm in prep on right now. It's not. It hasn't been. It's been more of a subconscious thing. I think it's not incredibly intentional. It just seems to I'm like, well, there's so much more to be said on this subject. Yeah. These are only 5. So far I've only made 4 stories. I've only told 4 stories about a subject that has 1 million stories that could be about it. And so I'm trying to cover something a little bit different with each one. I think I've already done my adult film world enough. I've covered that now in Starlet and in Red Rocket, and I'm trying to tackle other sides of it.
Yeah, very much so. And as you stated earlier, how you weren't a different person between your first and second film, the subject matter changes as well. As sex work is becoming way more prevalent in our culture and society now than I think it ever has before, due to the internet, due to different forms of communication and, the way society is going.
Platforms such as OnlyFans.
Yeah, it's become more
to take it on into their own hands.
Yeah, and I agree with you entirely. I think it's something that needs to be destigmatized and also looked at for what it is, as a regular, part of our society, as something that is as normal as anything else. Because it is, as they say, it is the oldest profession, as they say, and
I mean,
whatnot.
it's one of them things where should be about choice, just like
Yeah,
a.
choice. Yeah, and it's putting it back into the hands of the people doing it. It's all about consent,
Yeah.
trust, and what people want to do on an individual level. And I think, like Sean has said, his films don't preach about there's not a sign saying
This is my belief, yeah,
this is my belief, but it's presenting it in a humanistic way, which brings it down to our level as a society where we can view it as, oh, that's something someone is doing for a specific reason, whether it be financial, personal, whatever the case may be, but it's their decision. And we as a society, I think, need to respect it, be aware of it, and also like kind of move on with what we're doing as well. Not be so caught up with what other people are doing. Everybody's on their own path. Everybody's on their own road. But just getting into Red Rocket, your most recent film, which is about something similar, but also I was describing it to Steven afterward, earlier before the show, is that it's kind of what happens after the shine of fame is on you. Like, where do you go from there? Brought back down to your basic level and having to deal with that. And that's a fascinating universal thing in our world. Like, if you climb such high mountains in your personal life, what happens when you fall back down to the bottom? How do you deal with that? Was that ever kind of what you were going for in Red Rocket?
Oh, a little bit. I think we've all, we have our peaks and valleys in life, and that's but for him Mikey has always been sort of living this life of self-denial, and never really noticing the valleys that he's in. But let's see, I think with Red Rocket, it was specifically to do with this archetype that I discovered while doing research in the adult film world. And there's a term applied to this archetype: suitcase pimp. And when I heard this term, I thought, well, number one, I've never seen that depicted in film and television before. I've never seen this archetype depicted, or at least focused on, as the main focus. And I found this archetype fascinating and disturbing, and I wanted to, really do a character study of one of these gentlemen, because yeah, for all the reasons you see in the movie, he's quite the way he looks at life can be, it's for me, it's somebody who's lost, but unfortunately, because he's lost, he has quite a negative effect on other people, and then doesn't realize that. He never recognizes the negative effect he has on other people's lives. And so I thought this was just a fascinating subject to cover. And it was actually something that was sitting on the back burner forever. I broke this idea way back, right after Florida Project, when we were trying to figure out what film to make next. And it was based on, some of the stories I had heard from some of these guys. And then we decided, no, we're not going to make that one. But it was broken pretty quick. I mean, when I had the idea, I remember texting one of my producers and saying, here's this quick idea. It's about a porn star who's down on his luck, who has to, go crawling back to his ex, whose life he's messed up, back in a small town in the Midwest. He ends up falling right back into his old ways when he sees a young girl in the neighborhood and has his sights set on her and what he can do to exploit her. So that was the idea I had. I remember I texted my producer and said, and if we make this film, it's going to be Simon Rex. Because at the time I was following his stuff on Vine and really finding him really funny, and never understanding why the industry wasn't giving him, more opportunities. But we just threw that on the back burner. And when we went into this other film that we were developing for about 2.5 years about drug user activism, up in Vancouver, and how they are so more progressive in terms of how they are dealing with active addiction and the opioid crisis. Well, guess what? COVID killed that overnight. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we were ready to go. We had already shot 35 millimeter tests. A gentleman who I worked with before in another film just previous was ready to go. I mean, like, he was up there in Canada with us. I'm not going to say his name because I might get in trouble with his agents, but he was ready to go too. And it seemed very promising. And then suddenly we were back in Los Angeles, just tidying up before this shoot that we were about to go into. And next thing you know, the borders are closed. And we're sitting around going, oh my gosh. And then it took, obviously, COVID took over the world. And we said, maybe this isn't the film we should make right now. You know, we're politically, we're all thinking about COVID. We're all thinking about the upcoming election. Maybe this isn't the right movie. Maybe we have to wait a little while to put this out there. So we took Red Rocket off the back burner and just jumped right in with a tiny budget, because I was offered a little money, a quarter of the budget of Florida Project, to make what people are seeing as a COVID film, not even knowing if we were going to make it through production. So we just jumped in, and it became another guerrilla independent crazy shooting from the hip sort of movie. It was sort of like, and all those limitations that were imposed upon us because of our budget became benefits, you know, led to so many little happy accidents and serendipity. And we shot this very early on in COVID. It was actually, we got delayed because of like false positive tests and all that stuff. But we actually ended up shooting in September of 2020, and thinking it was going to be like this little movie that I didn't know how people were going to react to, because I think, you know, when you a follow up to Florida Project, I think probably people would think I would be jumping up to the $15 million mark or something like that, or working with a
Which Florida Project was what, only like a couple $1,000,000?
It was in the high threes.
Oh yeah, okay.
It was in the high. It was a union shoot, and we were shooting on 35 millimeter, and in a state that had no tax credit. So, and agency fees, by the way.
Yeah, everything stacks up. Everything.
Don't get me started on that one. Yeah. So this was actually almost a quarter of the budget of Red Rock. Was a quarter of the budget of Florida Project, but it was very important for me not to make it I didn't want it to come across as smaller. I was okay with it coming across in the same size as my previous, but I did not want it to look like I had less, or that there was less production value on the screen. And I think that my wonderful team made that happen, you know, and Drew Daniels, who shot it on, you know, anamorphic 16 millimeter, just nailed this beautiful, sophisticated look that's retro in a way and yet fresh. And yeah, my team made it happen.
That's great.
Wearing many hats.
That's really great. I mean, do you find yourself feeling more comfortable within a smaller budget, having kind of maybe less expectations, or there's less stuff that you have to worry about in terms of, you know, with bigger budgets come a lot more responsibilities and a lot more things, a lot more factors in production? Because I remember watching the behind the scenes making up for Starlet, and you being incredibly frustrated with just all of the things going on. And I remember, and you had mentioned like, oh, remember when we were doing Takeout, and we just had, we were just Takeout or Prince of Broadway, we were just, you know, doing it ourselves, all guerrilla style. Do you find yourself just, you know, being more in tune with the smaller budget? Does it get you back to feeling nostalgic about yourself?
Well, you know, it's a good question, because this is more of like, you're probably going to have to ask my therapist about this one, because quite honestly, I'm so torn on this, because as you said, yeah, while I'm in production, I'm kicking myself. I'm saying, why did we agree to take this budget? Why would I do that? Like, why would I agree to shoot on it? Why did I come up with this idea of the iPhone? This is like setting me back, you know? Yes, you're in that sort of self-pity mode while you're shooting. But then as soon as you're done, in hindsight, you realize that almost like all of those, as I just said before, the limitations lead to things you could never have imagined. And so I have become a little too comfortable in a way working in this space. My fear is getting bigger because, yeah, losing control. Every time you add an extra dollar, there's an extra voice, or like, an extra opinion that you don't need, or perhaps, going into this next film, there are crew members that I'm being told I have to have, that I'm like, but I didn't have them on the last three. Why do I need them now? Well, you're working on a bigger budget. It's just yeah,
It's
more money, more problems. What can I say?
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of hard to, like, because obviously being an advocate for independent cinema, these other crew members, you want to give jobs to other people too, but it's like, for you, it's like the more you can hone it in yourself and like keep this circle smaller, you feel like your vision can get put across easier, I believe.
100%.
Yeah, so it's like I get the struggle. I've done a little fun amateur things myself, and like the more people you bring in, the more you feel like you have to like take some of your energy away from that, and then put it towards like kind of making sure this person knows what you want, and like it
must be just logistically difficult just to balance every little thing, or to monitor every little thing. Like you said, the more money you add, the more production responsibilities there are for someone else, or for you, or for whatever.
Yeah, and also the footprint is just bigger. And because the footprint is bigger, you're less intimate on set. And I make these films where it's supposed to be, about human interaction and intimacy. And suddenly you have 40 people hanging around. It's like, it's like, it just takes away from the vibe. With Red Rocket, a lot of those scenes that took place in the living room, with Simon and Brenda, who played Lil, and Bree, who plays Lexi. So they're in the living room, and there are only 3 other people in the living room. There's Drew on camera, sound, and myself, and maybe the AC is over to the right, and then everybody else is sort of outside, but that's only a handful of people too. So we always felt, felt small, contained, intimate. I love that. But of course, at the same time, I went to NYU thinking I was chasing Hollywood. I wanted to make, the next RoboCop or the next Die Hard. So I do, and I love that sort of cinema, and I appreciate the people who have that, huge canvas and can deliver with that, and maybe someday I will want to do that.
I was gonna say, dude, when is Sean Baker gonna take it up a level, and he's gonna do like the next Predator movie or something like that?
Yeah, I would love to. I just it's
no, keep doing
for studio.
Keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's a part of cinema we don't get. I don't think gets enough. We need more people with, honest voices, instead of trying to get so lost in and like I have no problem with genre. I love genre films, but like the more we can tell stories about real people, the more we can, like you said before, like get to know each other better, so that we're not feeling so different.
There's also the argument that you also see nowadays. Everything is a large blockbuster, large IP, large budgets and all this stuff. And where are all the small original films? Well, they exist. You just got to find them.
Yeah.
They're there. Sean Baker's been making them since 2004 or 2000.
Yeah, it's just, we used to go to the cinema to see these mid-level dramedies that were made for adults. Even I look back at the 90s, and I'm starting to say, like, well, where are our Buffalo 66 these days? Where sixes these days? Where are our Dazed and Confused films these days? We've moved so far away from it that and that's what I long to see. I want to see a film like Five Easy Pieces in the cinema. And I just wish audiences would realize that they have to seek these out. They have to go to the art houses. They have to go to the independent cinemas, but they are out there. And like, for example, this weekend we have Triangle of Sadness, the Palme d'Or winner from Ruben Östlund, that just hit theaters through Neon. I mean, it did okay. I hope it does. I hope it continues to stay in theaters, because it's a wonderful film. And it's about, it's about our human condition. And they're no, I mean, they're big set pieces and wonderful set pieces, but when it comes down to it, it's about being human
Yeah.
and living on this on this earth with other humans. And I would love to see more of these types of films in theaters making money. Actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I was gonna mention your love for theaters and even drive-ins, because I looked back at your stories on Instagram of you doing that tour of like just your drive through the South, because I live in North Carolina. So you came through Asheville and you were checking out you were stopping at all these drive-ins, and you missed one. There's one in North Carolina in Eden, and called the Eden Drive-In, and it's fantastic. And it's and just all these, you stopping at all these old theaters, and just, I loved watching it. I was like, man, he needs to do this like once a year. Like just go to different sections of America. This needs to be on TV or something. It needs to be a Netflix series or something like where Sean Baker just tours the U.S. looking at other theaters, old theaters, and like that needs to be a thing, man.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah, man. Hey, let's get somebody on board. I'll come along with you, and my wife and my baby. They'll just come along too.
I was gonna say there needs to be more like repertory indie theaters. I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like even because I feel like there's such it's mostly kind of like coastal. I feel like L.A., New York, and then other bigger places have like the structure for these, whereas I feel like there's just a vast wasteland. As you traverse the country when it comes to these smaller theaters. Also, they don't get a lot of coverage when it comes to, even social media now seems to cover everything, but when it comes to small movie releases, it's just not there. Even like something as small as even the Palme d'Or winner, an international, film festival that gets massive coverage every year. We wouldn't know that it's coming out. We wouldn't even know when it's going to be released, so other people can see it who don't have access to indie theaters and whatnot. So there needs to be more open communication when it comes to these things, because the movies are out there. We just need the information to know when to see them, where to see them, how we can see them.
You have to seek it out. You really have to seek them out, because even though companies like A24 and Neon are amazing in putting out wonder and really like having incredible and building incredible libraries of contemporary film, they don't have the budgets for PR the way studios have. I mean, they can't have like a $30 million PR budget a campaign the way that, say, like Don't Worry Darling or Bros had. They have to figure out other ways, and so it's almost our duty as film goers to seek it out, and trust me, I do. I have I follow every blog, I listen to every podcast. You
kind of have to. You kind of have to, because I mean, it's a communal effort. I think being a cinephile, I think, is a community effort where we've got to like share information and not criticize people for their opinions on movies and things like that. We got to get away from that and be more collective in terms of like, have you seen this movie? Oh, you haven't? Well, it's great. Go watch it. This is where you can watch it. If you don't have access.
That's what we do here. We try to.
It's kind of like
we try to watch as much as we can of the releases that were announced through the week, and try to talk to people about what we thought, and say, hey, if we didn't like it, maybe you will. This is where you can watch it, or this is when obviously there's a release coming out. Maybe you should pick it up when it comes out. And that's what we like to do here. We like to try to make sure that the film is, talked about, not just the physical media release, which is great. We're big collectors, but the films need to be, talked about and discussed, and that's fun for us. And one more thing, I know we're about time for You Have to Go. I think we're getting close. You stay as long as you want, of course, but movie posters. I know you're a big movie poster fan too, and I worked at a movie theater for about 9 years.
Really?
Yeah. In my early 20s, from about 16 to about 25, I worked in a 4-screen that actually still showed movies on film until it had to be transitioned over to digital, because we were forced to. Big companies were like, we're not going to send you any more film prints. So we had to convert. But I used to build up, on platter systems. I used to build up movies, and I actually have some trailers in here, I think.
Me too, man.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
Too.
We had
I was a projectionist and even a manager of a theater because they couldn't find anybody else at 17.
Yeah.
Manville,
Wow.
New Jersey. So I worked on the platter system too.
Yeah. And one funny story, we had a reel on our wall for years, and we never looked at it what it was, and we finally took it down near the time that the theater unfortunately closed over COVID. We finally looked at what it was, and it was like the last reel of the movie Hook from like 1989. And I was like, why is this here? This has been here for like 20 years. Like why is this still here? But I got trinkets from the theater. Like I have an old lens that we used to show movies on. And I got one of these and some like some of the splicers. I have a splicer from that time, and it's great. But movie posters, I have like a whole tub of movie posters from my time there, like 300 of them. Why do you love? Why is that such a big thing for you? Because you have a lot of old ones.
I do. Yeah, I've been collecting since high school. In the last few years, I finally have made some money off of my movies, so I've been actually able to increase my collection. But it's memorabilia for me. It's stuff that's it's how we advertise this art, and I love the medium, and just and sometimes the artwork is incredible. Sometimes the artwork is so great that I like the poster over the film, and I like having the poster up on my wall, but I'll probably not revisit the movie anytime soon. And on my Instagram, I've decided, to devote my Instagram towards my poster collection. So every few weeks when I find the time, I have a 1-bedroom apartment. It's not that people think I have this mansion because I'm showing these images of these posters framed up on the wall. They don't understand that I'm swapping these things out.
Well, the thing is too is you're so busy. Why would you need a mansion? Like you probably never live there longer than like a few hours, right?
Yeah, we're on the road a lot with these movies, but we do. Getting back to the posters, what I do is that I have a bunch of different frame sizes and stuff like that, and so that I have frames for like a US 1 sheet or a US half sheet or an insert. Then I have the Italian 1F, the Italian 2F, the French film, the Japanese. They all have different sizes, so that becomes a pain in the ass where you have to have room to store the frames you're not using, but no, I take pride in the ones that the posters that I have. I have some really amazing ones, and you can see them on my Instagram. They do lean towards genre. And why? Well, guess what? The most interesting posters come from genre. I'm sorry to say, but also I love genre films. I truly do, and I think you can start to see that playing itself out in my newest films, my last couple of films, and the one that's coming up. Sorry.
Dude, if I could keep you here for as long as possible, just getting you on a nerd flow, then I would. But I know you probably need to go here soon.
Sometimes I have a few more minutes.
Okay, cool. So I love that. I don't know if I could say what because I haven't been able to invest in a lot of older posters, but I do have like a lot more of the modern day stuff. I got some of Scorsese. I got The Departed from Scorsese, which is when I make sure I keep that one fresh, and like some of Paul Thomas Anderson's stuff. I have like There Will Be Blood, and and some of these big blockbuster ones. I have every Nolan film poster, I believe.
Cool.
And I even have some of these Marvel Cinematic Universe posters. I have tons of them. So
I mean, there were so many of them. They made so many. Of them.
I got so many of them. But it's
it's important though, to store them properly. If they're going to be in the frame, you have to have the UV protected glass. You need to have an acid-free back. When you're storing them, you store them flat. In a climate controlled environment, you have to, it is in a way a responsibility, when you're taking on these, there only so many exist in the world. So when I have a French Grand of Jules and Jim that's linen backed, I'm sort of responsible at this moment for preserving this thing until I die and pass it on.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I'm so glad you think about because it really I mean, not only does it show your passion for film, but your passion for even collecting. Like you really think about the preserving of all these things that are connected to cinema, and I just love that. I love that you're thinking on such. I mean, even though like not everybody can has the means to collect posters, because posters are not easy to be a collector of. They take up a lot of space. They take, and like you said, all the things you need to really do it right are kind of difficult for some people. But but just hearing you think that you think that way about all that stuff is great, and we need more. I wish more filmmakers were a little bit more forefront. We have great ones like Scorsese, and like I think Del Toro is really good at talking about cinema in this very lovely way, where he lets you know that it's not me just being in a business and wanting to make some money, throwing some stuff up on screen. I really love cinema, and I want to show you my viewpoint, and like we just need more of that. I want to see more film directors do that.
I was gonna say there is a romantic, philosophical, almost fantastical, way of looking at cinema. There's really a way in which cinema for me is kind of an ethereal thing. Like it's something that exists in the physical realm, but there's also something intangible to it, something more than just watching a movie on a screen. This is something that's part of our society, part of our culture. It's reflective of our culture.
It's communication. We're communicating
thing.
In a really interesting way, because it's
I mean, watching a silent film from the 1920s or 1910s, it's like, wow, this movie has been in existence for nearly a century or over a century.
I mean, Nosferatu just turned 100 years old,
Yeah. And it's just like how, why has it been around for so long? And cinema is always cinema for me is something that like always exists. You know what I mean? It's something that's always there, and you can tap into it in different stages of when it exists, no matter where you are, when you are. That's why I never get on people when they haven't seen like an all-time famous movie. Like, oh, you've never seen The Godfather, or oh, you've never seen Citizen Kane, or oh, you've never seen The Wizard of Oz. It's like, it doesn't matter, because cinema is like permanent.
And you're never going to watch it all anyway.
It's always there.
That's something that that's been a kind of like this stressful thing in my life as of late, where I'm middle aged. So I'm like, I now am, seeing my mortality and, and saying, how many more years am I going to be on this earth? There's no way I'm seeing every movie ever made. I mean, that's impossible. That's an impossibility, especially when I'm trying to make films. And when you make films, you not only do I know I'm never going to see every film that I want to see, and trust me, my physical media collection has gotten to the point where it's like, can I even watch all of these in the next 5 years or whatever?
Trust me, we're all doing that.
I've got stuff in stacks from like over a decade ago that it's like I haven't gotten to yet. It's just been sitting there.
It's crazy. We have this an office apartment that's separate from our living apartment, and we have all of our kitchen cabinets filled with Blu-rays in that office apartment, because we don't use the kitchen in that apartment. But I was also going to say, when you make films, you can't watch other movies. I mean, I think that's I've talked to other directors, and it's like, when you're in production, you just simply don't have that 2 hours during the day, and so you are like, if you're a cinephile and you're almost addicted to watching movies, that becomes really frustrating too, because for those few months there, you are movieless. But it's a good problem to have.
I was gonna say, but your process of doing your next film, though, is extended. You do have usually what it takes about 3 to 4 years between films for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to reduce that time.
Okay.
We're going actually into production in January, so
nice.
this will be what, a 2.5 year interim. But I so much time. These are original screenplays. They require research. Usually, most of my films are in a community I'm not a part of, so that requires entrenchment time and collaboration and meeting consultants and spending the time in that community to really get it right. So each film takes a little bit longer than I guess your normal film would. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and once again, that's what's great. That's what's great about Sean Baker's filmography, guys. So if you're not jumping on the filmography of Sean Baker, you need to get on it. But Sean, this has been a great conversation. We hope to have you back again. Maybe we can do it again, and we can get you talking some Blu-ray releases with us next time.
Definitely. When one of these next two titles come out, whether it's Four Letter Words or Prince, I would love to be back on. I would love to see what you guys think of Four Letter Words.
Okay.
It finally comes out. And talking about labels with you guys. I follow them all. I'm a subscriber to anyone I can be a subscriber to. I get all the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you jumped on Radiance, the new?
Yes, I have actually.
Great.
I love Kat and Fran from over there, and it seems like they really have. From those first few titles that they've mentioned, that they've announced, I have a feeling Radiance is going to become a really, important label. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great, man. Well, we'll let you go. Sean Baker, it's been a privilege and it's been an honor to talk with you about physical media, movies, and just the nerd. We were getting a little nerdy there for a second,
Right, of course, as one does.
Yeah. But thank you again, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, it was better than I thought. It was better. Sean Baker's an awesome guy. Just such a passion for cinema that I'm so glad to see in filmmakers that have that put out relevant stuff. Like I love seeing a filmmaker really show his passion.
Also, it was a really great just talk in general. There was no ego with him. There was no anything like that. So it was really, really nice just to talk to somebody who's a genuine, regular cinephile, just like the rest of us,
exactly.
And collector and lover of movies and whatnot. And we've been very fortunate enough to, come across many people like that who are just, lovers of movies and just want to talk about movies and talk about the passion for it and all that kind of stuff. And there's been no issues, no nothing. It's just wonderful conversation. As somebody who has a lot of anxiety and nerves about doing every single episode we ever do, it's nice that I worry for nothing every single time.
Well, I was going to say, I'd be honest, I was noticing you were more comfortable in this conversation than I feel like you've ever been with some of our higher profile guests.
Really? I didn't, because I don't feel like that.
I mean, typically, I just feel like you definitely felt more comfortable in this conversation than any of our other ones.
I don't know whether that's due to the fact that we're shooting this on a day that we typically don't record this, or if it's just earlier in the day, so I'm more relaxed because I just woke up like an hour before the show. I don't know. It could be any of those factors.
Could be.
But either way, great to have Sean Baker on. It was a privilege for us.
Yeah.
When Stephen first told me about this, I was shocked and amazed.
He thought I was probably lying to him a little bit.
Kind of didn't believe him. But if you haven't seen Sean Baker's work, there's at least 5 Blu-rays right now available of his work. He's done, I think, a total of 7 films. 5 of them have Blu-ray releases. 2 of them, like you'd mentioned, are in the works in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but if you don't have a lot of his stuff, be patient. There is stuff that's available, but there is gonna be upgrades and upon upgrades that he's told us.
Things are afoot, but also Takeout has a Criterion release, and we all know that. There's a Criterion 50% off sale coming next month in November, like it usually does. So you may want to pick that up at the next Criterion sale.
Definitely.
If you find it on sale somewhere, grab it while you can. Or if you just want to pay whatever you want to pay because you got the money, then do it. It's worth it. It's really worth it. It's a great release. But transitioning now to the rest of our show, Stephen, we're going to get into some Blu-ray announcements and things like that. Not much this week. We had our first full week of October. First calendar full week, and everybody kind of threw everything at us in the last week of September, and now everybody's kind of spent when it comes to announcements. But we of course got a few things to talk about.
Yes, definitely. Let's start with a single release here from Blue Underground.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Justine, which is a Jess Franco film.
It is indeed.
And
another Jess Franco film. His work is seemingly spread out amongst all of the boutique labels we seem to cover.
Well, I think definitely Severin has a large amount of them.
Yeah, Severin has some. Vinegar Syndrome has some. Blue Underground clearly has this release.
He did a lot of films, though, so it's
yeah, that's also
he did a lot of films. Yeah.
It's also very, very true. This is called what's this called? Marquis de Sade's Justine, and Jess Franco did. Oh, good lord! He did 200. He has 206 credits on IMDb, director-wise, just director. So a lot to pick from, a lot to choose from. But this is a film I've never heard of, and we weren't able to watch it in time,
unfortunately,
for this release. And it's going to be one that's probably not for the faint of heart.
Well, there is a couple notable names here, at least that I know of. Klaus Kinski is in here.
Oh yeah,
and Jack Palance is in the film.
Oh wow!
So
just getting the IMDb synopsis for those of you interested. Penniless and separated from her sister, a beautiful chaste orphan must endure an endless parade of villains, perverts, and degenerates who covet her virtue and life. Sounds like a Jess Franco film, I guess.
Yeah.
And also Marquis de Sade, that team is notorious for debauchery and things like that. So it's going to be one of those. And this is a 4K release, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And Blue Underground, their 4Ks are pretty spectacular.
They look amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do look absolutely fantastic. They're a little on the expensive side for those of you who obviously collect them or don't collect them. But you put the money in. You get back what you put your money into. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like some releases are pricey, and it's like, is this really worth it? But Blue Underground ones are really worth it because the picture quality is so fantastic.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, where do you want to go now, Steven?
Let's talk about we got a few Cohen Media Group releases here.
Yes, we do. There's one is a double pack, a double feature of
On the Yard and A Walk on the Moon.
Thank you for pulling that up. So On the Yard, actually, I wanted to watch. It is available on YouTube in just the poorest quality you will ever see. It's available on there. Maybe worse than DVD quality, but it's in it's letterboxed widescreen. So you're looking at a rectangle within a square version of the movie, and the resolution is just not good. But it's a movie that I wanted to see just because of the cast in it in general. John Hurd, who's an actor I really like, and also it came out in 1978, and it's a prison film. And prison films I know are interesting to me because you got a lot of great ones. Birdman of Alcatraz, Escape from Alcatraz, Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
You've got a few of them. This one is kind of one that I wanted to see. So it's a shame I couldn't find it in a better quality. The second film I'm not quite as familiar with.
It's about the Apollo 11 in some way. The mission.
Is it?
I mean, it's around it's not about the mission itself, but it's about something that happened during that time. It's the backdrop.
Director actually, Rafael D. Silva, only directed 2 films, and the 2 films are On the Yard and A Walk on the Moon. And A Walk on the Moon came out in 1987. It's actually not about the Apollo 11. It's kind of a metaphor, Stephen.
Okay. I was just kind of reading this, and I thought that was the backdrop of it. But never mind.
That's how they fool you. They put these poetic titles, and it's like, oh, well, that sounds nice. But a Peace Corps volunteer, bubbling over with idealism, learns to his delight that he has been assigned to a remote, backward Colombian village. When he arrives, he is confused by the cynical attitude of his predecessor. Kind of one of those films where you get somebody who may be going into a situation where they're going to be in over their head in terms of their expectation of it. Maybe they view the Peace Corps as something like an altruistic effort to help people who need help. But obviously, when it comes to all things like that, things are a lot more difficult than they appear to be.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the case. It's another film that I also wanted to watch as well. But yeah, you can get this in a double feature with Cohen from Cohen Media. And then you get a movie that is the complete opposite of this. And I did get to see this. It is available to stream. It's called A Fish in the Bathtub.
That's one place you could put a fish. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, if you got water. So this film is the one where the cast is like, these are people you know. Jerry Stiller, Ann Mira, the mother and father of
Ben Stiller.
Classic comedic duo. They
were the people that owned the camp and Heavyweights.
Yes, they were. I mean, I believe Heavyweight was directed by Ben Stiller, wasn't it?
No. He's in the movie. He's in the movie
right,
the crazy camp count.
But Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira, they were doing comedy like back in the 60s. They were married actually for 60 years before Ann Mira passed away in 2015. They were married from 1954 to 2015. And Jerry Stiller, of course, passed away recently. Just one of my favorites. He, of course, was on Seinfeld. He was on King of Queens. He was in Zoolander. He played Ben Stiller's character's agent.
Yeah.
Was it Martin Ballstein or something that? He was just so comedically fantastic. But A Fish in the Bathtub is directed by Joan Micklin Silver, who unfortunately has also passed away in 2020, and she directed a film called what was it? It was Crossing Delancey from 1988. A really, really good film. That's where I kind of shown her. Starring Peter Riegert. That was the first time I had heard of her. Was this film? I think this was streaming on Criterion Channel at some point. But anywho, this is her other film, and A Fish in the Bathtub is about Ann Mira and Jerry Stiller's character. They're this old married couple who kind of can't stand each other anymore. They just can't stand each other, and they kind of separate, and they just kind of go their separate ways for a little bit. And their son is portrayed by Mark Ruffalo, and so the mother, portrayed by Ann Mira, goes to live with him, and then Jerry Stiller is living by himself, and they have this antagonistic relationship, but they love each other, and like, are they gonna get back together? They're dating other people, but are they just doing it to make the other person jealous? Or are they doing it to pursue other avenues? It's a fun, comedy drama film. I really dug it. You'll see a couple of people pop up in this that you'll recognize, like Doris Roberts from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
She's in the film as like one of the friends or whatever that gets caught up in this whirlwind and whatnot. And it's essentially Ann Mira and Jerry Stiller just going at each other for a good portion of the movie. I dug it a lot. It is, like I said, it's available to stream on, I think, Canopy and other places. It's great. It's a really kind of comedy hidden gem of a film. And if you wonder if there's a fish, there is. There's a fish that Jerry Stiller buys and puts in a bathtub. And it's just there the whole movie. It doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. It's just there. So I dug it. So that's getting put out by Cohen Media. But moving on to... where do you want to go to? You want to go to Shout Factory?
Shout Factory, sure.
Yeah, Shout, let it all out. Scream Factory and Shout Factory have a tandem release slate here. Some upgrades from Blu-rays that you may have in your collection at home. We're getting a 4K UHD upgrade of War Games, the film starring Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy. The film, isn't this the film directed by John Badham? I believe it is.
I believe so, yeah. Yep.
Then we got the film directed by Brian De Palma, Carrie, the Stephen King adaptation. This is getting a 4K upgrade, and I know many of you may be moaning at home because you've had that collector's edition, Scream Factory collector's edition for many, many years, or if you're like me and never upgraded due to laziness, still have that derelict 2008 Blu-ray that was put out by MGM. So this is going to be a massive upgrade for people like me. But yeah, we have Carrie, and then we've got Black Christmas, which is appropriate for this time of year, whether it is October or the holiday season. One of those 1970s gritty, horror films that I actually was talking about with a friend the other day. And this is a film that for some reason keeps getting remade every once in a while. Steven, I don't know if you've seen the most recent incarnation of it, or even the one that came out in 2006, but this seems to get a remake every decade or so.
Yeah, I saw the remake, the recent one with Chloe Grace Moretz, I believe, right?
Oh, gee, I don't even think... Oh, is that the one?
Isn't that the one?
Okay, there was one from 06 with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I didn't see that one.
And there's the one from 2019 with Imogen Poots.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
I think we had to cover it because it got a Blu-ray release recently. Carrie Elways was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this gets remade every once in a while. I was just talking about it with a friend because they had watched this original one for the first time, and this is, I think, kind of it's a staple of, maybe, horror classics, if you will. I use classics maybe a little loosely, but it came out in 1974, the same year as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre got, more notoriety. I think this movie kind of gets lost in the shuffle when it comes to classic horror because it didn't get a franchise. It's kind of a self-contained story. You didn't get any sequels to it. You just kept getting remakes or movies that felt similar to it.
The tough thing about Stephen King is a lot of the same
That's Carrie. I'm talking about Black Christmas.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Carrie.
No.
That's where we're confused because you were talking about. That's why I said Chloe Grace Moretz sequel.
Oh my goodness! Now I'm putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
If you want, okay. So moving back.
I'm sorry, but I thought we were still talking about Carrie, and you moved on to Black Christmas.
Yeah. So I'm talking about Black Christmas.
Okay.
I moved on. But yes, Carrie did Carrie's got a couple of remakes actually. But the one with Chloe Grace Moretz is. Actually, a film I think is underrated. I don't know if that's a hot take. I've seen the movie about 2 or 3 times. I think it's really good, and it's not really a remake of the Brian De Palma film. It's a readaptation of the story, and it's actually a lot closer to what the actual story is in the books than the original adaptation from De Palma. But this one's directed by Kimberly Pierce, who I think is an underrated.
I was going to say the one tough thing about Carrie, though is a popular story. He's got so many stories that are about, telepaths or whatever you want to call them.
With supernatural
people that can move things with their mind. You got the Firestarter, which is another one that got a movie and then has gotten
just got a remake.
Yeah, got a remake. He's got a lot. Even like, you could almost throw Dead Zone in there, where he's got like mind powers of sorts. He can see into the future. He's got a lot of stuff like that.
I would even say when it comes to a lot, I remember when this movie came out in 2013, a lot of the the negativity that was already built into it before the movie came out was the one from 76 is so beloved.
Yeah.
It's so iconic with Sissy Spacek, John Travolta, Karen Allen, I think, is in the film. Not Karen Allen. I'm skipping ahead. It's such a it's such an iconic film for so many reasons because I think it's from our parents' generation, and they kind of like at the time it was incredibly.
The prom scene
horrific.
Is iconic with the blood.
The prom scene's iconic. It's been parodied so many times.
Yeah.
Nancy Allen was in the film, who of course was in RoboCop. P.J. Souls was in Halloween. Piper Laurie would later go on. She would later go on to be in Twin Peaks. But yeah, this movie it's iconic for a reason. It's very good. I enjoy the heck out of it. But I don't knock that 2013 readaptation by Kimberly Pierce. I really like it. I've had it on Blu-rays for a while.
Well, Black Christmas.
But moving on now to Black Christmas. Black Christmas is the one that gets lost in the shuffle of like a Carrie, like a Texas Chainsaw, a Halloween, Friday the 13th, which would come out a couple, in the early 80s. The Hellraiser franchise later on. Black Christmas kind of gets lost in the shuffle as kind of a one-off because it is. It's kind of a self-contained story.
The thing about it is too is it's like I don't know how people felt back then because I wasn't alive then, but like we look at these like kind of like holiday horror films now as fun, but I wonder if they felt the same way back then. Did they look at them as like lesser than even horror? Because horror was of course already like a kind of a maligned genre. Even then, they were made really cheaply. They were, only for certain types of viewers. Like, not everybody watched these slashers. Did they feel the same? Like, was the holiday slasher movie like put on the same level as like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Well, you got to think about how, this was a movie that you would probably go to at a drive-in.
Yeah.
And it would be something that would scare the heck out of you, like something like The Omen is another one that came out around the same time. I just feel like the 70s had a lot of these horror, movies that people would go watch at the drive-in or places like that and just kind of go to be scared. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock had this interview that he did, I think, in the 70s or early 70s where, like, I'm paraphrasing here. People can look it up, where some people, go to the movie theater because they like to have a good cry for a film. But then there are those movies that, you like to have a good scream. And it feels like the horror movies are the movies you go to because you're going to have a good scream. And it feels like that was the era in which, the 70s had that era where they were trying to scare the heck out of people. And then, to kind of twisting genres of like, let's take something wholesome like the holiday Christmas season. But you know what? There's a serial killer stalking this sorority and they're going to start killing these women one by one. So it's a kind of cool twist on this. Of course, they would redo the same premise over and over again for the next few decades, all the way up till now. I mean, think of like Happy Death Day or something like that, where it's like birthdays are supposed to be happy and fun, but no, it just kind of make it about death and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, if you're talking about a cast as well, Margot Kidder is in this film before she was in Superman. Olivia Hussey is in this film. John Saxon is in this film. There's a lot of haunting scenes of like POV point of views from the killer. You never really see the killer in the movie, which I think is a really cool thing that they kind of started doing in the 70s. I always dug Black Christmas. I actually don't own this film at all, so maybe something to add to the horror collection for the proper time of year. This film was also directed by Bob Clark, who directed A Christmas Story, a proper Christmas film that gets played ad nauseum every year.
I was going to say, why don't this Christmas you watch The Christmas Story and then Black Christmas?
Yeah, why don't you do both? He also directed Baby Geniuses. So
what?
There you go. Oh, I remember seeing
Shit,
that
I watched
movie.
that so much when I was a kid.
Oh, I think I did as well.
Damn. Okay, here's another, speaking of a movie not in my collection, A Walk to Remember.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with War Games.
No. Walk to Remember.
Okay, so yeah, Walk to Remember, actually, this is going to be maybe not a funny story, not really funny at all. A Walk to Remember is actually one of the first DVDs I ever owned. I still have it to this day.
Okay.
I have the old Snapper case DVD of this movie. It is based on a Nicholas Sparks novel.
I know all about Nicholas Sparks. I live in North Carolina.
Do you now?
It's everything's set in North Carolina.
Everything is set there?
Yeah.
This is actually, I'm not a big Nicholas Sparks fan, I haven't seen very much of the movie adaptations of his work, but I remember this film, captured me at a very, very young age. When did this come out? 2002? I want to say? Yeah, Walk to Remember came out in 2002, so I was probably 15 when this movie came out. Right in that, hopeless, romantic, angsty teenage years, and I've always been a sap for a good genuine love story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Nicholas Sparks' work is. So this film was starring Mandy Moore, who was really popular at the time, Shane West, who was another actor as well. Look at the cast in this movie.
It's definitely a popular go-to for people that like that, especially like Nicholas Sparks. It's probably considered the best of his adaptations.
Yeah, I've always, Steven, I don't know if this is revealing too much. I've cried while watching this movie at some point.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, gee. It's an emotional, but I think that's the point. Like, Nicholas Sparks is trying to get you emotional.
Yeah, they're
trying to get you.
Yeah. It's okay.
It is dealing about love and death and life and certain things and whatnot. I remember, seeing trailers for this movie in the theater when I was going to the movie theaters around that time. But at that time, I was seeing things like, The Mummy Returns and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And so they would play this before those movies. It's like not at all the same type of movie, the same type of crowd. But of course, Mandy Moore and Shane West have both gone on to other things in their careers. Mandy Moore started out as one of those pop singers from the late '90s, the Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. She was part of that generation, and then she's going on to have a really solid career in terms of like acting and whatnot. She just wrapped up her time in that really popular drama series This Is Us, where she was fantastic in it. So yeah, she's been working a lot. So yeah, so that's a walk to remember. I know this already had a Blu-ray release, I think, a while ago. Or
But now
maybe
it's
I'm
part of
wrong
that
on
eclectic.
Oh no, it doesn't.
But now it's part of
this
that.
is the first time.
Well, that's part of that. Now it's part of that eclectic branding
Select?
of Shout Select.
It is. So yeah, so this is a Blu-ray premiere for A Walk to Remember. That's fascinating.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah.
That's kind of wild. That movie, yeah, 20-year anniversary. Better late than never.
Yeah.
So what else is on this
Well,
list?
you wanted to come back to War Games.
Did I want to come back to
Well,
War
you
Games? I think
thought I
just
was going to
wanted
say War
mention-
Games, and then you were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Walk
I
to
wanted
Remember."
to mention War Games because there's been a Blu-ray kicking around from 2012 from MGM. So this is probably a massive upgrade from then, and that Blu-ray already looked pretty decent for the time in which it came out. But I also want to mention that all of these 4Ks are, I think, getting pretty significant, Blu-ray packages. I think Carrie's getting is coming out as a 3-disc edition, as well as Black Christmas. I know that Jonathan Beam is working on the special features for Carrie. And this is also getting a Steelbook edition as well as I think a deluxe like Shout exclusive like gift set where you get like a poster and you get like a pin set and all kind of extra stuff. But I think you got to order directly from their website now, and those things usually sell out pretty quick. But I'm just glad that this is getting another Blu-ray release or getting another release in general. I love the Brian De Palma's work.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to kind of an out of nowhere, big, humongous set that was dropped this week, and it's coming from a kind of a label we don't hear a lot of releases announced from that much, and that's from is it?
Are you talking about the Wim Wenders set?
Yeah, it's coming from a
Curzon Film World.
Yeah.
This is a massive 22 movie, I think Blu-ray set. Yeah, 22 Blu-ray set from Curzon Films. This is a UK company. I remember hearing about them a long time ago. Like they've been around for.
I believe they put out
while.
our first release of. Didn't they put out the first release we got of the Kogenaga film?
Oh, Columbus.
Didn't they put out that release of that?
Oh, I gotta check on that.
Yeah, check
actually.
on that because I feel like it's them that put that first release out that we got.
No, it was Network.
Oh, was
Network put that out.
Okay.
But this is like I said, massive 22 film set. I think it's getting 22 discs, so each movie is going to have its own disc, at least according to the limited details we have on Blu-ray.com.
Yeah, 22 discs, 50-year career
this
spanning.
actually just came out on October 3rd, but apparently it's still up for pre-order. Don't ask me how that works. Something tells me this release may have gotten pushed back a little bit.
Well, no, it's not coming out till November 28th.
Then Blu-ray.com is way wrong about
they're way
when
wrong.
this is supposed to come out.
Yeah, it's got just this massive, it's covering, I guess, everything, including his documentaries.
It's covering a lot of his stuff. I don't think it's everything.
You don't think so?
Because
Okay.
it doesn't have Pina, which has a
Okay.
Criterion release. No, it does. It does. There's
It
Pina,
does. It's
there's
right
the
there. I
Salt
see
of
it,
the
yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
And Everything Will Be Fine, which is his most recent film. So this is a massive Wim Wenders set. If people are big Wim Wenders fans, damn, this is for you. But they're also putting out a separate 4K release of just Wings of Desire, which is probably his most well-known work and probably his masterpiece, along with Paris, Texas. But if Wings of Desire is getting a 4K release here, and there's a 4K restoration of it kicking around out there, crossing your fingers that Criterion's going to put it out.
I think that's been something when I've seen people have discussions online about what are some other ideas for Criterion box sets. We've gotten some really great ones so far with the Bergman and Fellini and so who do they have enough material of that they could really put together another kind of like complete set almost? Wenders is one of them. I think they got
they put
everything.
Out a lot of his stuff already.
Yeah.
I mean, just individually, they've put out, like I said, Wings of Desire, Buena Vista Social Club. They have his Road trilogy.
Yeah, the Road trilogy,
which I have in a Blu-ray box set.
What's the American Friend?
Oh, the American Friend. They've got so much of his work already out that they could almost build one. They could almost build their own set based off of the stuff that they've gotten already. But yeah, the Road trilogy, which has Alice in the Cities, Wrong Move, and Kings of the Road. And I'm pretty sure they've got their hands on a lot of his other stuff that they haven't even released yet.
Yeah.
Until the End of the World. Yeah. This is film that has a Blu-ray release already. Pina, like I said, Pina's in 3D actually. I think it's one of the only 3D Blu-ray releases that Criterion ever put out. Was Pina, because Pina was actually shot in 3D using 3D cameras.
Yeah.
If you watch the behind the scenes of that film, I would. Yeah,
it's a great looking set. It's got a big hard box, thing with posters.
It's got some posters.
It looks cool.
It has that book packaging.
It's kind of like the Shaw Brothers set. Yeah, it's kind of like put together like the Shaw Brothers set.
Oh, in terms of dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks a lot like that, but obviously much bigger with 22 discs.
Yeah, it's a lot more discs, but
that's kind of cool. Steven brought that to my attention because I had heard about it. I didn't know any real details on it, and I don't really know.
It's going to be pricey.
I don't know what the special features package is either. So
it's saying it's going to have a bunch of features, but we don't have all the details yet.
Let me put it to you this way: Amazon UK has the pre-order up for £230 British.
So it's probably in the $275 American.
Luckily for everybody at home, I have a trusty
converter.
I have a currency app on my phone. Yeah, right now, currently, as of October 10th, 2022, because money values change every day, 230 British pounds is $254.
Yeah.
So
then
pricey.
Add shipping in there, and then who knows?
Then you get to where Steven was talking.
Yeah, and then you might get closer to. It's a good chunk, but you're looking at like a lot of.
Chances are many of you have like half of these movies already.
You might, but these are new 4K restorations and some 2K restorations, and so you're getting upgrades and you're getting a lot of features that might be exclusive to this box.
I'm not really sure.
You don't know yet.
We do not know yet, but that's a really cool thing to mention. Steven, is there anything else?
We need the only thing left. I think we need to look at is some of the catch up on Kino.
Yeah, let's catch up on Kino. Let's just go there because this is, that sounds good. Sounds good to me.
That's about that. I mean, there's some small.
I was looking
strays,
at some other stuff, but I'm like,
let's catch up on Kino, and then we'll call it a day. We had such a good interview with Sean. I don't want to mess this up.
Okay, don't screw it up. No, okay. So we're going over to Kino, and we're going way back to like late September. So please.
Sorry.
Excuse us.
We forget about Kino sometimes because we don't want to.
Well, they've been pretty slow lately.
They have been pretty slow lately. Yeah.
So they've slowed down the pace a little bit as the year is dragging to a close.
And they're doing their sale. They have another sale going on.
They do have a Shocktober sale going on right now. I think is it to like the 17th?
I don't know.
Of October? I don't know.
But maybe also to talk about sales, Indicator also has a sale going on right now that ends on the 16th. They have like a good bunch of good stuff in there. Not everything's on sale, but a lot of the stuff it's like 200 titles.
If you've been wanting to catch up on some Indicator stuff, a lot of the stuff is actually cheaper than it's ever been before. I think this is their biggest sale in terms of like
how many titles
amount of things that are on sale. Like there's like 200 titles that are like on sale.
Yeah.
Some are as low as like £5.
Yeah.
Which, by the time you have to pay for shipping, I think it'll get you up to like probably like $15 US, but
just get a lot of them small ones and make it worth it. Yeah.
Still pretty cheap. But yeah, moving on to Kino, we're gonna start with this movie called Stranger in the House. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that it is written by, we were just talking about Criterion, Henri-Georges Clouzot, who of course did Wages of Fear and Diabolique, directed those films. He wrote the screenplay for this. He did not direct the film. The director of the film is Henri Decoing. And this is a movie that I really wanted to watch. It's getting a new 2K restoration, but I couldn't find this thing streaming anywhere, let alone finding a physical release up until now. So this is something I've kind of got my eyes on a little bit. I know nothing about it other than it's written by a Clouzot. That's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't get a chance to look into this one too much, but Clouzot is a filmmaker that I just gravitate to everything he has. Anytime somebody's putting out more Clouzot, I'm kind of like, I'm just going to get this.
There's speaking of which, there's an early Clouzot Kino box set on Blu-ray that I've been meaning to get for a while. And it's been...
Yeah, I had the silent film set.
Yeah, it's like his early stuff.
Yeah, I have that, and then like his films, like the two films that people know that it really had an effect on me was The Wages of Fear, of course, and then Diabolique. It's just you watch him, and then you're just like, God damn it, this guy's so good. Like he knows how to structure a film and build up suspense. People say he's like the other Hitchcock, right?
Well, they say he's the French Hitchcock.
The French Hitchcock, yeah.
That's been his thing, but I think he's probably.
I think he's a little bit different. I think there's a little bit more range showed there, in the sense of like like Wages of Fear is a whole different.
Amazing.
It's a whole different type of movie.
Wages of Fear is a masterpiece of a film. I mean, the book that Wages of Fear is based on, I think it's called Wages of Fear.
Oh, really?
It was readapted by William Friedkin in his movie Sorcerer in the late 70s. Underrated film.
That's pretty good too. Wages of Fear is better, but it's pretty good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he did. Yeah, he's a great director. I think we got to see more of it. More of his stuff's got to come out. Just in general,
it's spread around, man.
Enough.
It's his stuff's kind of spread around. I think Kino has put out a lot of the stuff, but like, yeah, Clouzot is one of the masters, so like, you definitely need to jump on him. But next, one that a lot of people know is getting a new 4K from Kino, and that is Death Wish, starring Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson.
Yeah,
they've put out so much Charles Bronson in the last year and a half that it's like this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it's one of Charles Bronson's most notable films, 1974. Directed by Michael Winner, who also directed him in Chato's Land and The Mechanic. This makes sense. You're getting the 4K here from Kino. You're getting Death Wish 2 from Vinegar Syndrome. So there's going to be two of these 4Ks kicking around for you people to get. This movie has been available for a while on Blu-ray, as well as its sequels. Its sequels are not as good as the original. Sequels, I think, were part of the Canon film group in the 80s and whatnot. And even into the 90s, they were making Death Wish films, I think. This is going to be a worthy upgrade.
Exactly, yeah. It's the only one of the Death Wish films I actually have seen, and it's a worth pickup. It's, like you said, the sequels are few and far between. I know there's advocates for the second one, but...
the second one is like they just kind of remade the first film.
Yeah.
They just took the
so
same
it's the Evil Dead.
It.
Evil Dead 2.
Kind of,
just Evil Dead 2 is actually really good.
Yeah, and everybody who doesn't know Death Wish, the character Paul Kersey, portrayed by Charles Bronson, his family is attacked, and he goes on a revenge tour of not even trying to find the people that did it, because it's kind of impossible for him to find, but just to find the people, just to find anybody else committing crimes. He's going to shoot them. That's the movie. And it brings into the whole idea of vigilantism and all this kind of stuff. And but moving on from there, we got a movie here called Girl on a Motorcycle. This is getting a brand new 4K restoration this is a film from 1968. What is of note of this film is that it is directed by Jack Cardiff. And those of you listening may be wondering, who is Jack Cardiff? Jack Cardiff is the cinematographer for a couple of notable Powell and Pressburger films. Black Narcissus, specifically, and yeah, he's a notoriously amazing cinematographer. That's where his career was predominantly, involved in, was that he's just
he did John
he did
Huston's
Stairway to Heaven, Black Narcissus, Red Shoes. He shot Hitchcock's Under Capricorn, if you care.
Yeah. He did John Huston's African Queen. Yeah.
Yeah, he did War and Peace. Well, I think that's the Criterion War and Peace. That's 3.5 hours long. Yes, it is. And then he worked from the 1930s all the way up to, to the 2000s before he passed.
Jesus.
He passed away in 2009. He worked all the way up from like 1935 to 2007. Damn, what a life.
Yeah.
What a life. He did everything. Oh man, from like Technicolor films in the 30s to, I think, I gotta look, and I'm frantically storing for time, because I think he was the cinematographer on Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
Hell yeah.
And Conan the Destroyer. So we're talking like Red Shoes, and then like.
Man, that dude knew how to party. He knew how to party.
Yeah, he knew how to shoot a movie.
On top of that, this film right here, Girl on a Motorcycle, is an X-rated film.
Yes, I think it was one of the first X-rated films, and I watched the movie, and I have no idea why it's X-rated. But Girl on a Motorcycle, it's not a great film, but it's a fascinating film of this girl who's riding a motorcycle, as the premise says, but she's leaving her husband to go visit her lover, and she's taking this long motorcycle ride, but while she's doing it, she's reminiscing about meeting her husband and meeting her lover, portrayed by Alain Delon, of course.
Oh, wow.
Because he's gorgeous.
Well, dude, this sounds like an alternate version of Radio 1.
In a way it is, but it's very there are parts of this movie that get very psychedelic. Like, it feels like you just dropped acid and the screen just starts...
Yeah.
Colors start floating everywhere,
okay.
And there's like green screen being done when she's driving, and she starts hallucinating at certain times.
That's not good while you're driving.
Not the safest way, and it's a tight film. And the movie's only an hour and 31 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe it's rated X because of like nudity, I guess.
Well, that's nudity is
and
enough.
The sexual scenes are quite provocative. I mean, if you watch the trailer here that they have on IMDb, like Alain Delon is unzipping her leather driving outfit with his teeth. I don't know if that was illicit at the time.
All right,
but it is. And she's just wearing this leather outfit this whole time. It's maybe a little exploitative.
I
for
guess
that time.
I don't know. But you can watch this on Tubi.
Yeah, you can watch it on Tubi. It's like I said, it's a quick hour and a half, but it's psychedelic. Not a lot going on in terms of plot. A little repetitious, a little monotonous, perhaps. But I enjoyed watching it. Jack Cardiff directed a few films actually. He has about 15 credits to his name, but he's most notorious for being a cinematographer.
Yeah.
Not some of the most gorgeous films you'll ever see. But moving on from there, what's next on the docket? We have the Hallelujah Trail.
Why'd you say it like that?
I don't know, because I think when you say Hallelujah, Hallelujah, you gotta sound like a televangelist person who's just there to steal your money.
Sure.
Ironically, the movie stars Burt Lancaster, who has played a bit of a preacher who's just trying to steal your money in other films, like in Elmer Gantry. But this is a film starring Burt Lancaster, Lee Remick. It's a Western from 1965. I'm assuming it was shot in CinemaScope. I don't even know the details on that, but I would bank on it. Yep, 235 to 1. The movie's directed by John Sturges, who did Bad Day at Black Rock, The Last Train from Gun Hill, The Great Escape. We talked about John Sturges' last film like a week or two ago. But this is getting a new 2K scan from the 35mm reduction interpositive. Wow, that's a thing. But getting a new audio commentary too.
Excuse me.
It's a Burt Lancaster film. It's a Western. It's a no-brainer for me, I think.
Okay.
How about you, Steven?
John Sturges can be hit and miss for me. I mean,
Okay.
I know he's a big
I was
time.
expecting a little more enthusiasm.
Well, he's a big time director from the. I mean, I love Burt Lancaster. I mean, I definitely do. But I want to check this one out before I decide to put money down on it. And it's. John Sturges. He's done some films people like, but I don't always like him. He did do. I'm remembering right. He did do The Great Escape, right?
Yes, he did The Great Escape.
See, people love that movie, and I don't love that movie.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
A little bit of a hot take.
It's a little hot take, I know, but I didn't love that movie.
Do you have the Criterion?
I do have the Criterion.
Okay, because I own the original MGM release and the Criterion release, because I think there's like a special feature or two that didn't get ported over to the Criterion.
Okay,
which is frustrating as heck.
But the movie
looks so much better.
for me was okay. It's warranted a rewatch. I rewatch everything. I come back around.
I will say this though, for those of you who don't have this release, Bad Day at Black Rock, the Warner Archive Blu-ray looks amazing, and the movie's really, really good too, starring Spencer Tracy. Highly recommend that.
That's one I own but haven't watched yet, so I can get around to that.
Highly recommend it. Spencer Tracy's fantastic in it. Robert Ryan's in that film, and Francis, Walter Brennan, Ernest Borgnine, Lee Marvin plays a heavy, of course. That's a movie. The movie's an hour and 21 minutes, and it's kind of perfect.
All right. Well, moving on, we got Laws of Gravity.
Yes. Laws of Gravity. I did get to see this movie, and just in the interest of time, I'll pitch it to you like this. A 1990s version of Mean Streets.
Okay.
Starring Peter Green, who is a rather underrated actor, kind of a character actor of our time. Edie Falco is in the film as kind of his romantic interest, or his girlfriend essentially. This was before she was on The Sopranos, before she was on Nurse Jackie, before she became famous, a great actress, and she's fantastic in the film. But it has the same similar premise to Mean Streets. It's shot in the same kind of raw, almost guerrilla style version as Mean Streets. It's about like kind of low level hustlers who get in a little bit too deep. The Peter Green character is very similar to the character in Mean Streets, and then of course he's got a buddy, Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, I was gonna say Harvey Keitel's character,
and then Robert De Niro's character, who's Johnny Boy. He's got the same type of buddy in this movie, who's also named as Johnny, and he's the screw up. He's the guy who's always getting in trouble, and you got to bail him out until he gets in too deep, and you may not be able to bail him out now. It's 90s version of Mean Streets. I know Tarantino really likes the movie. It was an inspiration for him. But yeah, I do recommend watching it. I think it's another one you can watch.
It's also on Tubi
somewhere.
It's also on Tubi.
Yeah, it's definitely recommended. But going in knowing that you're gonna get that Mean Streets vibe, obviously. Moving on from there, I think we talked about this before. Take Your Pelham 123 is getting a 4K release.
Yeah, it's one of them ones that was announced a long time ago that just we're finally getting details.
Yeah, this is getting a 2-disc set. This movie is incredible. It's a great film. I really dug it.
Yeah, I have the previous
I really like the remake too.
I have the previous Blu-ray release. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I always have put it in my cart during one of their sales and never bought it, and then now I've got to wait until the 4K comes out. There you go. But moving on from there is a Scorpion and Kino team-up release of Walk Proud from 1979. Brand new 2K master, a host of new interviews with this thing. Yeah,
don't know much about it. It says a young Chicano gang member in Los Angeles comes to realize that the gang life is not what they really want, but doesn't know how to get out. So it's one of them kind of gang films where
once you get in, it's hard to get out.
So and the director, I'm not really familiar with him. I don't think he did a lot. It looks like he did a lot of TV.
Okay.
So
but moving on from there is actually a movie I did get to see, and that's called Split Image.
I wanted to watch this so bad, yeah.
Yeah, I got to watch it I think last night I did. Starring Michael O'Keefe from Caddyshack, Karen Allen, who was in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Peter Fonda, James Woods, Brian Dennehy. And this movie is fascinating because, if anything, this movie has some contemporary staying power because it's dealing with cults, dealing with like brainwashing, dealing with indoctrination, and then dealing with trying to break out of that cult like mindset, break out of that brainwashing, and de-indoctrinate yourself. And what is interesting, this movie came out in 1982, and we're still dealing with like cults today. We're still dealing with obsessive, organizations and movements and things like that are on the surface look like good things. Like, oh, everybody here loves everybody. We're all one big happy family. But underneath that surface, it's toxic, it's terrible, it's awful, there's sinister things going on that you don't see. And we see that, there are cults existing right now while Steve and I are talking.
Sure.
But Michael O'Keefe plays like a young athlete who's like, I think he's a gymnast, and he ends up meeting Karen Allen's character and kind of falls for her right away. And it turns out she's in a cult, and she brings him in, and the cult is run by Peter Fonda. And it's one of those kind of hippie 70s cults where, we're all vegetarians, we're all God's creatures, we all, kumbaya and all this kind of stuff. But, they brainwash you, they change your name, they change your identity, they make you hate your family and your parents and all that kind of stuff. And his parents decide that they're going to try to break him out of it. And that's where they hire James Woods' character. And that's what he does, is he goes into these cults and gets hired and brings people out, and then has to like break through the indoctrination. And by doing so, he basically tortures them. That's kind of how he does it. But you see the psychological effects of, all this stuff going on. You see the strain on the parents, once portrayed by Brian Dennehy, the other by Elizabeth Ashley. And you see kind of the strains of it all. And it's a rather contemporary film from that perspective, where you see the desperation of, parents trying to get their child back. But I dug it. Yeah, the movie runs about an hour and 50 minutes long, maybe a little too long, maybe drags a little bit. But I dug it. It's directed by Ted Kochev.
Yeah, I was going to say, this dude has a varied career. I mean, he did the 70s Fun with Dick and Jane. He did, speaking of Rambo, he directed First Blood.
Oh, look at that. He did North Dallas 40.
North Dallas 40. He did Weekend at Bernie's. He did Weekend at Bernie's, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, like,
but not the sequel. They didn't bring him back for the sequel.
No.
Damn it.
But yeah, he's done such, and then he's done some TV work. And so, yeah, he's just got such a varied career. And yeah, he's still working out there in Canada, I believe. So yeah.
He was also a producer on Law and Order SVU for. Yeah, he's an executive producer, so he's got credit for everything from 2000 to 2012, and then co-producer from 99 to 2000. Yeah,
he don't have to do nothing else.
Yeah, he's got a lot of video shorts here that are like First Blood shorts. I don't know, maybe that he just credited because of the character, or maybe he directed it, but yeah, he'd also directed some Law and Order SVU episodes too.
Yeah.
Huh.
Awesome.
Cool.
Moving on. We got a couple more.
We're gonna move on to a big one.
Yeah.
Probably one of their biggest announcements of the week, and this is Sidney Lumet's film Serpico is getting a 4K UHD upgrade release. I believe they said sometime next year, because next year will be, I believe, the 50th anniversary. So we're getting this. And I was just telling Steven before the show, we had a Blu-ray release back in 2013, which I think would have been its 40th anniversary. And that was when they decided to put the Blu-ray out. Warner Brothers put that out, and then I think Paramount probably re-released in 2017 or something like that. But either way, this is a massive upgrade.
Yeah, it's a big
Sidney
one.
Lumet, man, was the man in the 70s.
Sidney Lumet is one of them filmmakers that just doesn't get brought up enough.
And he's one of the best ever. Probably one of the best of the 20th century.
Probably
Easy.
the most consistently great director of all time.
Specifically for that 70s time frame.
Yeah.
Just even before then with, I wouldn't even say 70s. I would say from the time he did 12 Angry Men until I would even say Running on Empty. Well, he did do The Wiz in there, but some people like The Wiz, some people don't, whatever the case may be. But damn, just great films. 12 Angry Men, Failsafe, Fugitive Kind, Dog Day Afternoon, Network, Prince of the City just got a Warner Archive
And then
release.
one of the best last movies of all time.
Probably one of the best last movies you'll ever see.
Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
Yeah, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman as well as what's his name?
Ethan Hawke. Yeah.
And Marissa Tomei is in there as well. What a pitch black, dark film. My goodness. Incredible film. That has a couple of Blu-ray releases. I still need to get that Shout Factor release. Man, what an incredible film. There's one other actor in that film that I can't remember that is of note.
Albert Finney.
Yeah, Albert Finney. That's
and
who it
Michael
is.
Shannon's
Michael Shannon. Yeah,
and
Amy
Marissa
Ryan's in the film.
Tomei, Amy Ryan.
Man, what a film.
Yeah.
But Serpico, for those of you who have not seen this film, and I know maybe a lot of you perhaps have it maybe gets a little lost in that 70s filmography from Sidney Lumet, starring Al Pacino, based on the true story of Frank Serpico, who was a New York police officer for I think I want to say 11 years or so.
Yeah. And
he was just a whistleblower when it came to corruption and things like that was going on throughout his time there and just throughout the NYPD. Talk about a movie with staying power, police corruption and just dirty stuff going on behind the scenes with law enforcement. No, it never happened after that, clearly.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a film that has that staying power because of it. But yeah, it's one of Al Pacino's best performances, I would say. But yeah,
I mean, he did this,
film.
and then a couple years later, he did another Lumet film with Dog Day Afternoon. That's just as great, performance.
It's probably, what, that movie probably overshadows this one.
It does a little bit, I think, but
I think it's just more well known. It's more notoriety. You
his career is just stacked. His career is so stacked.
Like, this is one of those where even if I own the Blu-ray already, I'm probably gonna upgrade this. I can't wait to see maybe if a couple of his other films get some upgrades.
Yeah.
Network maybe.
Network's kind of. I think Network it consistently gets some kind of Blu-ray upgrade, but maybe a 4K's in its future. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I would even another film that's underrated from him, or just doesn't get brought up a lot, is The Verdict with Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Another great film that has a Blu-ray release as well. So definitely looking forward to this one. But I think the only thing we've got left is they announced the details on, speaking of Paul Newman, what a segue there. Nobody's Fool, their 4K UHD release, is a 2-disc edition where one's the 4K disc and the other one is a Blu-ray disc of the movie.
Yep.
And yeah, that's about it. I can't wait I'm waiting to pre-order this, actually. Like, I've been waiting for this to come up for pre-order somewhere. Because it's coming out December 27th, right around the holiday area. It's going to be a Paul Newman Christmas.
Oh, yes.
But that is everything.
That wraps the episode, guys. Once again, thanks to Sean Baker for coming on and spending some time with us.
Yes.
And, God, I mean, it just we get it. We got started in the show. Didn't think we were going to get to talk to some of our favorite people, that we get to watch their stuff, and there's like a disconnect in the way you're like, like you love their work, but you don't ever get to meet the people behind it. And doing the shows gave us the opportunity to talk to some of these people that that do the thing that we like to watch and spend our time wrapping our minds around. And it's just great.
It's been an incredible journey to be able to do that. I mean, and like I said,
it really changes your perspective on your collecting and your watching of movies, like being able to talk to the filmmakers and the people that create special features for these Blu-rays and like.
If you would have told me back in 2015 when I watched Tangerine for the first time, that 7 years later I would actually get to talk to Sean Baker, wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah.
I would have thought you were crazy.
Yep.
I mean, it just kind of shows you that life is rather unpredictable sometimes, but also can be rather good.
Yeah.
Amongst all the turmoil we all have to go through.
Definitely. But with that said, Andrew, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Cabzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be at my the Twitter. I also have my own separate Twitter, which I lost. Just to bring this up real quick, I have a Stephen Billings Twitter page that I tried to start using, and now I haven't been able to access that account again. I've kind of like lost access somehow. I don't know. I tried all my different emails, can't find the access to get back into the email. So I had to create another Stephen Billings email Twitter page. So there will be
doppelganger.
Yeah, I know. There's two of me out there. I'm starting a new Twitter page for Stephen Billings, so you'll see that soon. But you can find me there. You can find me also at Instagram, or you can go follow me on my Letterboxd, see what I'm watching, getting ready for the next episode. And then you can also find you also go to Facebook and join our Facebook group. We're building up slowly. We need more people in there to participate, get conversations going. Please go join that group on Facebook. And then also, you can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.